I'm Patty Ann Brown, and you are in the Strategy Room. A congressional hearing today is sparking outrage. New details reveal evidence was destroyed during the investigation into the IRS targeting scandal, even after the agency was told to preserve documents. Here with reaction are Basil Smikle Jr., Executive Director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Liz Peek, columnist with the Fiscal Times. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me give more background to the viewers here. As you know, the IRS was investigated for imposing extra scrutiny on conservative groups that applied for tax-exempt status. Well, during the investigation into that targeting, Congress demanded emails from a period starting in 2010. Well, the IRS said, oops, thousands of those emails were lost during a computer crash back in 2011. The IRS also claimed they didn't discover this crash until 2014. Okay, still not a problem. There is a backup system. Well, no. After discovering that the emails were lost in February 2014, a month later, in March 2014, the backup emails were erased. The IRS says this was an accident. Liz, do you buy that?
Definitely not. I mean, this is just like a serial mishap, which is not an accident. And the IRS has been just remarkably uncompliant with the demands of investigators and with providing this kind of backup. This is horrendous. It's a little bit like Hillary Clinton's explanation of her email problems. Apparently, the Obama administration doesn't really understand or has really refused to sort of believe that they need to keep these records for taxpayers and voters. They do. And this, you know, the IRS really has to be brought to heel on this at some point. And I don't know how they're going to do it if there's no evidence. And basically, they've destroyed the evidence.
Yeah. So, you know, this is all according to J. Russell George, who is the Treasury Secretary, the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration. He's testifying today on Capitol Hill about his investigation into these missing emails. And he says 422 backup tapes were erased. Again, a month after the IRS says it discovered the originals were missing. He says about 24,000 emails were on those tapes, and he says it is very likely that they included many emails to and from Lois Lerner, who of course is at the center of the scandal. George also says, Basil, that these employees who destroyed these more than 400 backup tapes were not aware of an IRS directive telling them that these had to be saved. There was an order, a preservation order in place from the government saying you cannot destroy any emails related to this investigation. How did that not filter down to the employees who erased the tapes?
Right, and I don't know how it did not filter down. And, you know, when this first came to light, I was a little suspicious of whether or not there was any there, but it clearly appears that there is something to the erasing of the emails. Nice way to sneak in Hillary Clinton, by the way. There was something to the email, emails being erased. And it does look like it's a bit of a problem, but I want to be clear, somebody actually did lose their job over this. Ms. Lerner has lost her job. There were other disciplinary actions taken, so I think something has been done. What I'd like to see is us move past this, realizing that, yes, mistakes were made, there was a problem here, it does look like there was specific targeting of these groups, but let's actually move on and figure out how we reform the tax code and reform the IRS instead of sort of continuing to beat this drum.
You know, is it mistakes were made, or was it a deliberate cover-up, and is it criminal?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. The timing of this is more than suspicious, and I think there is some criminality involved. And by the way, in terms of reforming the IRS, the new person who's running the IRS is just as dismissive of Congress and of the rules of the game as his predecessor. So I must say, I think, again, what is discouraging to me is that we've had so many instances like this where scandals are revealed, everyone goes, oh my gosh, isn't this terrible? Nothing happens. Nothing really has happened at the Veterans Administration. That horrific situation continues to roll out with, again, really not nearly enough heads rolling. There wasn't just one person, Lois Lerner, involved in this IRS problem. There were many people involved in it, and it goes presumably to the White House. So until we make those connections, which now we never will because of this email erasure, it's not going to happen.
But I think it's important that those connections have not been made. So where you have...
How can you if they erase all the evidence?
But where you have the connections, though, I think you can do some more toward actually reform. And if people have not lost their jobs, if there's criminality, I'll be the first to say that they should be prosecuted. But barring that, failing to get to that threshold, I think it's important to have conversations about reform. That's what I don't see happening yet, and it needs to happen.
You know, but Basil, with this Lois Lerner situation, I mean, you know, she took the Fifth Amendment, refused to testify. The Republicans tried to hold her in contempt. They declined to prosecute her regarding all of that. But a lot of people are saying, you know, you see it on the social media, you know, if I, Joe Schmo, Joe taxpayer, was investigated by the IRS or by Congress and I decided to, you know, get rid of email evidence, there is no way that I would get a pass.
No, that's absolutely right. Look, if I were Clive Bundy and owed the federal government a tremendous amount of money but had armed guards stationed outside of my compound ready to fire at them, I'd be hauled out of my property on the spot. So I don't think that there should be special treatment no matter who you are, but I think this is an important time to talk about reform. And that actually, to me, has come off the table. We spent a lot of time talking about who's at fault, and people have lost their jobs as a result of this. But now let's move to reform.
Well, you know, he's right about reform. Obviously, I think anybody would agree that the tax system has to be reformed. But can't we look at both of these at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually when people begin to lose confidence in the impartiality of the IRS, that is a big problem. And whether it is this scandal, which I think is just unimaginable, people have tried to say, oh, this has happened in past administrations. I have never seen any evidence that this has happened in past administrations. But you also have people like Al Sharpton who get away with tax cheating year in, year out. You begin to kind of challenge the objectivity of it. Again, everyone should apply by the same rules. I pay my taxes. I'm sure you pay your taxes. It's pretty irritating when others don't. But if there's an entire subversion of the IRS, which is what this Lois Lerner thing was, that's even worse. And this is really unacceptable.
I love how she drops these Democratic names over and over and over again. There are Republicans that are doing this as well, I'm sure. And that's why I think that's why I think it's a bipartisan issue. It's not merely just this administration. And as I said before, people have lost their jobs. That's time, and it's time for reform. Yeah, because it helps everybody.
Let's leave it on that note. All right, Liz Peek, Basil Smikle, thank you both so much. And you can check out foxnews.com for more on this developing story. I'm Patty Ann Brown. Thanks for watching.